You know why self-care is hard? Because it's about having the dessert when we want the dessert and about eating healthy. It doesn't make sense.
This is Erica Diamond.
Erica Diamond.
Erica Diamond.
Erica Diamond is a life coach, yoga teacher,
An entrepreneur, author, and success coach.
Burnout, it's a term that gets thrown around a lot these days.
Burnout traditionally feels more like this chronic stress where it's this hum, this continual level of overtime. My mom looked at me and said, Erica, there is something off. I think that you should get help. And so I did.
What is the biggest mistake you see most women make when it comes to overwhelm?
So many people are shamed into self-care. We had to unlearn ways that we were raised to not tune into our needs. This perfectionism will not serve us. It really doesn't.
We can suspend our self-judgment. We don't have to tick all of our 15 self-care tasks every day. You do whatever you can, but you do something.
If you are listening and if you are on that path, this is the most important thing that you have to grant yourself if you're not feeling your best right now. And that is
Burnout, it's a term that gets thrown around a lot these days. What does that word mean to you?
I had started a company when I was 24 and our company was growing. We were publicly looking like things were awesome, and things were awesome for my business. By the time I was 26, I was a Profit Hot 50 company, one of Canada's 50 emerging growth companies. I was the only female CEO on the list, top 30 under 30 entrepreneur, top 40 under 40 nominee. And I say this because from public appearance, things looked really awesome. But privately, I was quite literally and quietly burning out. And I credit my mom, who is a wonderful therapist and my best friend, but who would never treat me professionally. And she looked at me and said, Erica, there is something off. I think that you should get help. And so I did. But what that felt like for me was this agitation. It was sleeplessness at night. I was not able to calm my racing thoughts. Everything aggravated me. Traffic, someone who wouldn't answer me quick enough. I was snappy. I was short. I was all consumed with growing my business. I became very kind of narrow-minded and fixated. And I just didn't feel calm in my skin. The difference I think that's important here to recognize is acute versus chronic stress. So acute stress is that feeling of, God forbid, we're in a car accident and our body, our cortisol's pumping, we're shaken up. Or we're nervous for that job interview or presentation. That's kind of acute stress when our cortisol is pumping. Burnout traditionally feels more like this chronic stress where it's this hum, this continual level of overtime.
What inspired you, though, to build your business around self-care?
I got myself a therapist, Sandra. And what we discovered in therapy was Sandra knew how much I love what I did. I'm a passionate entrepreneur. And she said, Erica, no one is telling you to dull your shine, pour water on your flames, stop doing what you do so well. Rather, complement it, balance it with a calming lifestyle and a toolbox of self-care and strategies. And Sandra suggested that I try yoga and meditation. And so Steve was a yoga and meditation teacher who came to my house once a week, and he taught me the power of my thoughts and bringing my body to a state of calm and calming my central nervous system down as I step on a yoga mat. I ended up selling that company, stayed home for 3 years, and then was so on the fence with what to do with my life. An entrepreneur at heart, I said, what is my next move? What can I do? I'm building a community of women globally who are stuck and on the fence, but in all different facets of their life, stuck in a dead-end job, loveless marriage, with their health, in a toxic friend, in a toxic job, and then really started diving deep into that world of balance and what it took to balance business and not burning out to keep myself healthy. And so 6 years ago, I became certified in yoga and meditation. And it was just a natural evolution of continuing to always in women empowerment and inspiration, but continuing to work with women with their minds and bodies. And so just self-care is just my thing. Self-care is not this hokey pokey word, and the self-care that I teach is not bubble baths and spa days, although we love those. The self-care that I teach is real deep healing work, soul searching, hard work.
I want to go back 3-4 steps to the stage of overwhelm, because that's typically the entry point or the realization or the awareness that self-care is needed. What is the biggest mistake you see most women make when it comes to overwhelm?
We ignore those little whispers that tell us that we aren't tuning in and honoring ourselves. So we stay up later for those 3 more emails, and we work later and longer, and we go to bed late. The boundaries are not clear, not only with others, but with ourselves. We need to create white space in our day. We need to move our bodies. We need to unplug. We need to make time for social connection. It takes work to be happy. See how she feels. See how it feels to wake up a little earlier, journal, grab your tea or coffee by yourself, just small baby steps. And when that feels good, it becomes easier to duplicate that, right? And continue that. But the same thing is for the other way. We're eating like shit. We're eating like crap. We're staying up late. Like how easy it is to continue on that path as well, right? If you are listening and if you are on that path, this is the most important thing that you have to grant yourself if you're not feeling your best right now. And that is grace and compassion. A bad day is not a bad week, is not a bad month, is not a bad year. If you've been dishonoring your boundaries, if you are living in overwhelm, tomorrow is a new day.
I know for me, before I started my self-care journey, I didn't know how to take care of myself. Especially in my culture, self-care is just not taught. Like it's not discussed. It's not even a thing, right? So for me to learn that from scratch was quite a journey. It was also fun.
You said I had to learn self-care. More like, Ginni, you had to unlearn, right? Unlearning too. We had to unlearn ways that we were raised to not tune into our needs.
I love that on your website, you immediately have 4 ways for someone to address self-care now. How did you get there?
Quick wins. Quick wins. We all need a quick win.
Love it. Tell me more about these quick wins.
It's really important that you start small, that you don't tackle on the world, that you experience a small win. For example, my favorite thing that I offer on my freebies, like if you go to ericadiamond.com, is to download that 10-minute meditation and just notice how you feel after 5 or 10 minutes. Just notice how you feel after the small things. Going to bed 15 minutes earlier tonight so that you can wake up 15 minutes earlier tomorrow morning, right? Just small steps. And then notice how you feel. It takes about 21 days to form a new habit, up to 6 months for things to become more automatic. So it takes time to experience the relief and the benefits of what you're doing. Another favorite thing is if you are struggling now with stress and overwhelm, I encourage everyone to put it into your phone as a recurring calendar appointment, 10:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the afternoon, to do a box breath, which is an inhale to 4, hold to 4 at the top, exhale through pursed lips, to 4, hold at the bottom, 4 to 6 rounds. Over about 3 to 4 weeks, you're going to rewire your brain for more calm. You're going to change your brain matter through breath, through deep diaphragmatic breathing. You will notice a shift in your calmness and anxiety level. So these are small wins, which done consistently will literally change your life.
I want to talk about journaling because journaling is something that you mentioned on your website as well. It's had a huge impact on my life. I kind of thought it was very like Dear Diary, Babysitter's Club when I was starting. And I'm like, gosh, like who wants to write about themselves and what's on their mind? It felt very emo, but it's been transformational just to get whatever's in my head out onto paper. What's the best thing that journaling's done for you?
The idea of having a safe place with no one reading, no one judging, to dump your thoughts, to problem solve, is everything. It's wonderful. It's also a beautiful self-care ritual that you wake up in the morning. And again, it becomes part of your self-care routine. When we bring our brain to a place of what we have instead of a place of scarcity, when we go to a place of abundance, this makes us just, instead of looking at what everyone else has, it makes us feel so happy about what we have ourselves right now, even if it's not everything that we want to have. We are grateful for what we have now.
What is the most grounding practice that you've incorporated into your life?
My most grounding activity is definitely walking and breathing, for sure. Part of my bedtime routine is meditation. So breathing and walking, so simple. And by the way, let's talk about people saying, self-care is expensive and wellness retreats and wellness weekends. My 2 most grounding, effective, healing self-care practices are totally free. Walking and breathing.
As an entrepreneur pre-2020, I had a very rigid morning routine, which involved a lot of self-care. But as my business grew and as, the world opened up again, that wasn't sustainable. And then, I fell in love. I live with my fiance. I have 2 little kittens. Couldn't quite fit the way that it used to. So self-care doesn't have to be this rigid, I must do these things. It can be quite fluid, right?
Thank you for saying that, because so many people are shamed into self-care. And that bothers me, and they're shamed and they feel guilty if they don't do this 7-step morning routine, right? And I think that is such an excellent point. And that is a whole other thing, that if sometimes Ginni is a busy entrepreneur, it just doesn't happen some mornings. And so that's where grace and compassion come in. We do what we can. We do what feels good. And the most important thing is your self-care isn't my self-care. Self-care is not only going to yoga class, right? Self-care is whatever's pleasurable to you. And by the way, something to mention is that you don't even have to be good at it. Like knitting and golf can be your self-care. You can love that. You can be horrible at knitting and a terrible golfer. But if that's your way to disconnect, unplug, and be happy, that's your self-care. If you see behind me, that's my self-care. I love music. And at 49 years old, I took up drum. I've wanted to be a drummer my whole life. And Sheila E. was like Prince's drummer. And I've loved her my whole life. And my goal is to be Sheila E., I'm about 0.0000001% on my way, but that's my drum set. And I practice. It's how I practice. And that's my self-care, exactly what you said. We don't all wake up the same way every day. There are days where I know it's good for me to move my body. I don't feel like doing it. So if I was going to do, let's say a weight training, I say, you know what, today I'm just going to do a gentle yoga or a gentle stretch, because that's all I've got in me. So I've let go of judgment and expectation of myself. So I'm lowering the bar. But once I get started, you generally find some mojo. By showing up super chill and saying, Erica, you're just not feeling great today, just do what you can. That's where that grace comes in all the time, every day, all day, every day. This perfectionism will not serve us. It really doesn't.
This is a perfect segue into my next question. I read a blog post that you wrote just the other week. You described self-care as it's about finding balance between opposites that both enrich our lives and challenge us. I'm wondering what inspired this realization, and what's an example of finding balance?
Oh my God. So I got to be honest, it's one of my favorite blog posts that I ever wrote. I thought it was so good. It came up to me. I'm like, you know why self-care is hard? Because it's about having the dessert when we want the dessert and about eating healthy. It doesn't make sense. It's about staying out late and partying and have the best time with your friends and being intentional about going to bed early. Self-care doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. I get it.
And I sat down. I'm like, this is why this stuff is hard, because it's both. And it's a dichotomy, and it's about dancing the fine line and the balance. And it's about knowing what you need in the moment. And we only know that by doing the work, right? So it's about knowing what you need. And that's why self-care is damn hard. Because how do we know what we need in the moment?
Exactly.
Right?
And balance for me, I've been exploring that over the last year as well. I mean, balance in this sense is completely contextual and appropriate. Work-life balance, I've called quits on it because I don't think it exists. I believe more in work-life harmony. Because if I think of balance,
me too.
It's like standing on a fulcrum with my core tight. I've got a terrible core strength. I'm working on it, and juggling. Like it's just, for me, it just feels so unobtainable. But if I'm in harmony, wherever my attention needs to be, whether it is on work or life, as long as I'm feeling harmony in that space, that to me is what that work-life harmony is all about. So I love this concept of balance, because it is true. It doesn't have to be this or that. It can be this and that. And somewhere you find your own definition of self-care.
I think also what you said is so good. And I don't think that we can look at a specimen of someone's life and say, oh, they're living, completely balanced. There are times where I've had to give up beautiful speaking engagements or really wonderful opportunities that I want to take because it's my son's French play and I don't want to miss it, right? And so that day, my career took a 0, but motherhood took a 10. It's a macro view instead of a micro view. And so I think the most important thing, like you said, is being present and in the moment. That is the biggest gift we can give ourselves, which is right now, Ginni, with you, I'm here. I'm in the moment. When our minds float off into the past, we often experience regret. When our mind drifts off into the future, that's about anxiety. The best place the purest way for you to live free and happy is in the present moment, because otherwise it's as if the moment never happened.
Why do you think that your approach and your messaging resonate with so many women?
Because I come with integrity and honesty and truth, and I hate stuffy experts who are like, oh, they're preachy and they know everything, and they live in complete disalignment with their message. I fully am who I am online and social media and real life. I don't have all the answers. but damn well I've done the work. I have done the work. I'm confident in my message. I'm just honest. And I think that people gravitate towards truth tellers and honest people.
Well, Erica, I could sit and talk to you for hours about self-care. Thank you so much for being on the Ginni Show. You've been an absolute legend to have. I'm excited to kind of listen back to this episode, get more thoughts on self-care.